Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, an Essex mom whose son has been suffering from croup shares her struggle to find help. Plus, the city is shutting down its emergency shelter for displaced downtown residents. Some will stay at a motel this weekend. With ArriveCan no longer the rule, we take a look at the changing traffic patterns between Windsor and Detroit. And Ottawa wants migrant farm workers coming to Canada to bring loved ones with them. It's a move employers and advocates both support. An Essex mom is pleading for change. She's desperately trying to get treatment for her toddler who's had numerous episodes of croup in the past year. She feels let down by a broken healthcare system. In the dark of night, this is Laura McMillan's 2-year-old son, Harris. The loud barking cough is croup, a viral infection. Usually, kids might experience 1 or 2 episodes. Harris is on his 9th. McMillan says it's terrifying.
It comes on very suddenly in the middle of the night.
When it happens, Harris is unable to draw a breath, unable to swallow, sometimes heavy vomiting. Doctors suggested waiting it out until Harris got bigger, treatment the family could not accept, considering these episodes first crept up October last year. It's gotten so bad, backup fluid in his ears has led to hearing loss.
We're desperate, frankly.
A surgery on his windpipe finally scheduled, the family feeling hopeful. It would have been done this week in London, but days before, it was canceled.
It seems like every time we try to help him, our hands are tied more.
London Health Sciences Centre told CBC in a statement, in part, that with occupancy levels sitting at 115%, the decision was made to reduce surgical activity temporarily to maintain critical care capacity. McMillan does not blame the hospital. She blames the province, sending a strongly worded email this week to the office of the Premier asking him to do better, writing, "These hospitals are understaffed and grossly underfunded for the care our communities need. My son is only one of thousands of children suffering in this broken system."
My frustrations are with the system and the state of it, not the people who are run ragged right now trying to keep it afloat.
McMillan says she could see the strain here during multiple visits to Met Campus. Both Windsor Hospital campuses are running at just over 100% capacity right now, with a 5-year-old in the ICU for RSV. Plus, there are high volumes and long wait times in emergency.
Our healthcare system is in crisis and people are paying the price.
The health critic says she hopes the Minister of Health hears McMillan's plea. She says supporting healthcare workers and properly using financial resources would make a huge difference. McMillan has not received a government response to her letter, and neither the Premier's office nor the Minister of Health replied to our request for comment. While McMillan is sure the surgery for Harris will happen one day, it's painful to have no idea of when.
Frankly, half the time we're just apologizing and telling him, we're trying, buddy. I mean, he's a trooper. He's a strong little dude, but when there's no answers for us to give him. There's nowhere for us to take him. It's a terrible feeling to know that there's nothing I can do to help my son. He can't breathe and there's nothing I can do to help him. We had a plan and now we don't. And I'm not sure what we're going to do.
Here's the trifecta of pressures facing hospitals. There's RSV, the flu, and COVID-19. Windsor Essex is at an elevated risk for respiratory activity. The most recent data shows our 7-day average is down compared to previous weeks. That could mean it's peaked, but the pediatric unit is still full and the hospital is not expecting a dip in admissions. The number of people in critical care with COVID-19 is down slightly. That's after a spike in suspected cases that hit in October. Hospitalizations are down in the first week of December compared to the week before. This year's flu season is not what Windsor usually sees. The health unit says they're seeing 50 cases a week. They believe that's just a third of the actual cases in the community because not everyone gets tested. About 1 in 3 people under 18 who go to the emergency department have respiratory or influenza-like symptoms.
So I would say that we're having an atypical influenza season. When we think of respiratory disease overall, that's both COVID, influenza, and RSV. I think we're going to have a challenging few weeks moving forward.
Provincial and territorial leaders are renewing calls for Ottawa to boost spending on healthcare. They want the federal government to come to the table to negotiate a new deal on funding. But Ottawa is sticking to its demand, seeking guarantees and accountability to give out more federal money. Tom Perry reports.
Across Canada, signs of a healthcare system in crisis. Long waits or even closures at emergency rooms, frustrated patients, and burned out medical staff. Canada's premiers once again today calling on the federal government to step up with more cash.
Now more than ever, Canadians expect their political leaders to get together for necessary and serious discussions to ensure the sustainability of the healthcare systems that they depend on.
Provincial and territorial leaders renewing their demand for a meeting with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau.
Set a date. We will put aside our whole schedule, all 13 premiers, to show up to Ottawa and sit down and let's hammer out a deal.
But Ottawa, the provinces and territories disagree on some fundamental points. The premiers say the federal government covers just 22% of healthcare spending. Ottawa says that ignores tax point transfers that have been in place for decades and push the federal contribution to roughly a third.
The goal is to have a 50-50 funding partner, and with the transfer of tax points and the cash transfers, they believe that they're at 35%. Then it seems to me that we're about 10 to 15 percentage points off.
But the feds say money isn't the only issue.
We look across Canada, on average, provinces and territories are running surpluses. So if it were dollars, it wouldn't be important to talk to the federal government. They would have all the dollars needed to invest in healthcare.
Ottawa also making it clear if there is new federal money, it will come with strings attached.
A plan to send unconditional transfers to finance ministers is not a health plan.
For now, there's no plan for Justin Trudeau to sit down with the premiers and hash out any new deal. Money may not be the only problem facing Canada's healthcare system right now, but this squabble between the federal, provincial, and territorial governments can hardly provide any comfort for Canadians facing long waits for care and healthcare workers who are overworked and exhausted. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
The city of Windsor is moving some of the people evacuated from a downtown apartment building into a hotel. The temporary shelter for people living at 1616 Olette is now closed. Stacey Janzer now with a look at what continues to be an uncertain future for residents.
It's just not right how they're doing this. I lost my animals, I lost my clothes, I lost my apartment, I lost everything.
Pitts has moved from the temporary shelter to a motel, where she says she'll be able to stay until Monday. It's been a long 18 days for residents of 1616 Olette. On November 22nd, the city evacuated the building, citing it was without proper heat and electricity. That day, residents were bused to John Atkinson Memorial Community Center for temporary shelter, which was paid for by the city and operated by the Red Cross. Pets were housed at the local Humane Society until residents found housing. 81 people are forced to find somewhere else to stay until they can return, not knowing when that will be. The building has 120 residential units, but some are unlivable. On the 25th, the city tells CBC News it'll keep the shelter open for as long as it's needed. 40 people, or nearly half of the building's tenants who were forced out of the building, are living out of the shelter. On November 29th, the city says it'll close a temporary shelter on December 5th. It also says it's working with Housing Information Services and other community partners to get displaced residents affordable housing. The shelter closed at 11 this morning. Pitt says she doesn't know where she'll go next.
Tough life when they take you out of your own home.
The city says they will continue to work with Pitts over the weekend.
Depending on the situations for any of the individuals we were working with, it was kind of, we looked at what those placements might be. And once again, there's a temporary thing. Obviously, some people, once again, once 1616 reopens, certainly people can retain their tenancy rights. People that wanted to leave, that's where we found alternate accommodations.
Whittle says they worked with those that were staying in the shelter. He says a few people are going to the motel but could not give a firm number. MARTA Management, which is overseeing work on the property, says they're working to fix what's needed to get residents back into the building, working this weekend to fix a boiler. A project manager previously told CBC News it could take up to 8 months to complete all the repairs.
What we're seeing, the landlord is making those improvements, and we're hoping we're going to see the building kind of opening sooner. But, once again, that hasn't been finalized.
The city will need to do another inspection, making sure everything is up to code before anyone can move back in. Stacey Janzer, CBC News, Windsor.
Stellantis says it will be idling an assembly plant in Illinois. The company made the announcement this afternoon. Union officials say they are deeply angered. Stellantis says it's making this decision to optimize its operations. There are about 1,200 people working at the plant in Belvidere. They build the Jeep Cherokee SUV, and that operation will be shut down in February, and it might not reopen. The company says the auto industry is still dealing with the global microchip shortage, and the biggest challenge has been rising costs related to the electrification of the automotive market. And Windsor is at the center of the company's plans to electrify vehicles. The battery plant, an example of the shifting industry. Critical minerals are needed to make those batteries. And today, Ottawa unveiled a new plan to speed up project approvals for those raw materials. Officials believe it will be key in achieving net zero carbon emissions. But as the CBC's Olivia Stefanovich reports, tough challenges lie ahead.
It might sound counterintuitive, but the federal government believes mining is key to unlocking Canada's clean energy potential.
Any plan that does not include thoughtful consideration of how to develop and how to deploy critical clean technologies is not a serious climate plan.
Ottawa is cutting red tape to excavate the materials needed for batteries, solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles more quickly.
It cannot take us 12 to 15 years to open a new mine in this country, not if we want to achieve our climate goals.
The World Bank expects a 500% increase in demand for these elements, lithium, graphite, nickel, and copper by 2050.
We're in trouble. We've got climate change is real. We used to say just a few years ago that the North is feeling it 3 times as anywhere else. We're now saying 4 times.
The Northwest Territories is rich in these critical minerals, but it only has one operating mine. Before it opens any more, it needs new roads and hydroelectricity to replace diesel generators.
Speeding up the regulatory process is only really going to do one thing, and that's going to put Indigenous nations and industry and government at odds.
He says companies need to collaborate with Indigenous communities to seek consent and ensure all environmental concerns are addressed.
It sets off a lot of alarm bells, actually, because we've already gone through several rounds of basically deregulating.
Even with almost $4 billion on the table to speed up approvals, some say it's still unclear whether the money will make a difference without direct investment.
Some of the examples of where these processes have dragged out actually have to do with markets and companies just not being able to find the capital or the justification to build something.
The pressure is on for Canada to become a leader in clean energy technology. Unless it can smooth out its regulatory process, it will remain dependent on other countries. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
A live look here at the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel tonight. Vehicles entering into the United States. Those pandemic border restrictions, they were eased back in October, and we're starting to see the number of people crossing at the border increase. Here's what the tunnel has noticed since the ArriveCan app was made voluntary in October. Traffic during weekdays is up 6% compared to September. Weekend traffic is up by 14%, an extra 1,100 vehicles each day. but it's not back to pre-pandemic numbers yet. Last month, they saw about 80% of what it was in 2019. Meanwhile, at the Ambassador Bridge, they're seeing about half the passenger vehicle traffic they had before COVID-19 hit. A new program could pave a way for temporary foreign workers to bring family members with them to Canada. The federal government says it will open up work permits to their spouses and children. As Dale Molnar reports, there's excitement from workers, but concerns about housing.
I would wish if I could have them here. That would be so grateful for me.
Kirkton Reed last saw his wife and 3 children in Jamaica last February when he came to Leamington to start a 4-year work term in agriculture. The temporary foreign worker keeps in touch by phone and video chat, but he would rather have them here with him.
This is a very important program because being away from your family is very difficult.
And today we're making an announcement that will make it easier for employers to find workers.
The immigration minister says extending work permits to spouses and eligible children of temporary foreign workers not only addresses labor shortages, it also helps keep families together. The temporary program will roll out in 3 phases over 2 years. Consultation with the agriculture industry would occur in the 3rd phase before the work permits would be extended to those workers.
We're still not really aware of how the intricacies of it would pan out, but on the surface, it seems to be a good idea.
Joe Zboracki from the Ontario Greenhouse Vegetable Growers is in favor of the plan, but there will still be issues on how to house the families.
If it was everyone, I don't know how we would accomplish that overnight.
Leamington Mayor Hilda MacDonald is in favor of the program.
We're also in the process of developing education programs within the ag industry so that people can go from entry level to higher level jobs.
So this isn't a done deal. This sounds like they are dangling carrots for a program that may not come towards fruition.
Justice for Migrant Workers doesn't believe there needs to be any more consultation. It wants to see this as a pathway to permanent residency and ensure families are not separated so people can work. They're also worried about housing.
We have to look at developing a rural housing strategy where we're dealing with issues around housing. And so public investment in towards housing from the federal and provincial governments, addressing the precarious labor market for both workers and their families.
The federal government will begin rolling out the program next month with high-wage earning workers, but there will still need to be a lot of details worked out before the family of farm workers like Kirktons will be brought in. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
A live look outside there. Looking into this evening, we do have a chance of rain showers or maybe even flurries. And then we've got a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Colette Kennedy will be here after the break with your full weather forecast. Stay with us. It is Sounds of the Season, and there are plenty of ways to help your local food bank this weekend. The first option starts tonight at Bright Lights. Windsor Eats will be serving food at Jackson Park. They'll be collecting donations for local food banks, and any items collected will join the Sounds of the Season tally. You can also help stuff a police cruiser. Officers will be at the Real Canadian Superstore on Dougal tomorrow. They will be collecting donations between 10 and 1. And next week, we've got some big plans. On Thursday, we're opening our doors and putting on a live show for you. Windsor Morning will have musical guests, and Nav and I will also take you on tours of the building at noon. You can register for that in a form that you can find on our website. Just click on the Sounds of the Seasons article and you'll find it there. And that same night, on the Thursday, we'll have a special show highlighting the work people in our city have been doing to help each other out. All those details are on our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. Colette, there might be others who are procrastinators like I am, who have yet to pick up their Christmas tree. When's a good day to do that this weekend?
Yeah, of the weekend, I would still say Saturday is the better bet.
Okay.
But I am seeing some improvement with the latest model runs in terms of how things are going to fill in on Sunday. So I'll show you what I mean by that. And what I'm getting at is that maybe it's not going to be so bad on the roads, at least in the Windsor area. Don't travel too far for your tree, though, if you're going to leave it to Sunday. Current temperatures are looking like this, and we do have a sort of weak system. Well, it's a system that's weakening, that's moving towards us. It's pulling in that easterly flow, though, and at times those winds are pretty blustery, over 50 kilometers an hour there in Chatham-Kent, 44 for Windsor. Where you're not seeing a number, it's because they're not over 30 kilometers an hour. They're not gusty there, so it's not populating it for you. This is what I'm talking about. I mean, it looks pretty dramatic, doesn't it? Oh, a snowstorm coming in. Well, really, it's losing its energy here. So it's kind of dying out and pressing eastward. I'm not saying that this evening there won't be a few wet spots on the roadways or some wet flurries, but it should be relatively light in nature and then kind of just shrinking. But it is there, and you do need to know about it. And then the next bit of energy that's going to be coming in is still getting itself together to the west of us, and that's what's going to be filling in for Saturday night and into Sunday. And that's what I want to show you. So first of all, I'm just pausing this here because now as I roll it forward from 6 to midnight, look at that. Look how it just shrinks up. That's why that's kind of not what we're focusing on. Now for Saturday, I think we'll have some bright skies kind of to start, and then the clouds will be filling in. And as they get a little bit heavier in nature, we could see just off the lake a little bit of spotty activity. Nothing, not much of a big deal there. So that's why Saturday is the best bet. But now I'm taking you Saturday into Sunday. And did you see how this all filled in? But it filled in now more north of what's happening in southwestern Ontario. That's why travel might be unpleasant. But look at the accumulations there showing the story here too. Now the shift in terms of the path this is going to take, that could still change. Today's Friday, we're talking Saturday, Sunday, but it's showing those higher amounts, 8-10 centimeters, well off to the north and to the east. Overnight temperatures, they're going to fluctuate, but staying above freezing, where that system's bringing that energy, that dying energy through with the influence of the lake. And then we have some cooler numbers there just a little bit further north, and a -2 that's going to feel more like -10 there at times in Sarnia. As we head into Saturday, we'll see the clouds filling in, then into Sunday. I've still got this on the icon, but I'm telling you, I'm feeling a little bit better about how messy Sunday's going to be for us. And then you can just kind of see the temperature story. No huge fluctuations as we move forward, but generally into next week, it's below seasonal.
Well, I appreciate the Sunday optimism, but I think I'm going to put my money on Saturday.
I would still do that. Yeah. Safe than sorry.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
When we come back, a data breach that impacted thousands of Ontarians. We'll bring you that story right after the break.
available free.
Hundreds of thousands of people in Ontario are about to find out if their private information was compromised in a data breach last year. It involved the province's vaccine management system. A statement from Ontario's Ministry of Public and Business Service Delivery says it has been working to determine the scale and impact of the breach, and that starting today, approximately 360,000 Ontarians will receive notice that their personal information was part of this breach. In over 95% of cases, only names and/or phone numbers were impacted. 2 people were arrested just a few days after it happened in November of last year. And before we leave you tonight, how about a look at some never-before-seen stars? The images captured by the James Webb Space Telescope. It's in a part of space called the Southern Ring Nebula, about 2,000 light years away. Scientists from Australia discovered there were 2 or possibly 3 more stars in the nebula than previously thought. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, you can always go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor, and that's where you can also find all of the information about our Sounds of the Season campaign. You can also find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great night and a wonderful weekend.